In the Bible, specifically the book of Revelation, wormwood is the name of the asteroid Apophis. It destroys a third of the planet and is one of the judgments poured out on the world at the very end of this age. Before that occurs in 2029, we have a final world war and a world economic collapse. A day's wage goes to a quart of barley, and a quarter of the world dies in that war. And why? Why any of these world wars? After the First World War, someone else was asking why as well, and stumbled onto an agenda from the devil himself to kill every believer in God, and he wrote a book about it. A book titled Le Diable au 19e siècle by Gabriel Jagon-Pager, also known as Leo Taxil, exposed to the general public the first instance of the letter Albert Pike wrote and addressed to Giuseppe Mazzini about the Illuminati agenda for the next few generations. Many say Taxil just made up this conspiracy and letter, but dang, so far, every letter of the letter has been well-financed, promoted by out taxes and education systems, and secretly and publicly executed around the world. What is this agenda and plan contained in the letter between Illuminati leaders? The creation of atheism. This was done through the employment of a couple college dropouts, Charles Lyell and Charles Darwin. Atheism allowed people to kill, to commit crime without expectation of retribution from a just God. Karl Marx was chosen to create communism, not like the communism of the bile in Acts 2 or Acts chapter 4, but a more murderous and immoral type. In the Communist Manifesto by Marx, his communism required that all believers in God be put to death. Yup, they had to be sacrificed for their plan to work. Next, all participants had to fornicate, not marry. So the children that were not aborted were raised by the state. No real family unit, with a spouse that loves you and cares, and no more godly children raised to be honest, loving, caring, moral, love your neighbor's type. Russia then gained a reputation that everyone just uses each other and lives in the bottle until they meet their early, very lonely death. Now this delusion has spread throughout the world. The devil to the leaders of the Illuminati said this was needed to start the First World War. Quote, agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. And in hindsight, no kidding. Next, fascism, political Zionism and Nazism were created to cause World War II. Now remember, Taxil was exposing this letter just after World War I. He had no idea what these things on the agenda were or how they would be built. Time for another quote from the letter. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed, and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. And I'll just quote the last bit, and as you listen, you'll see just how exactly the evil agenda given and built decade by a decade has been executed flawlessly. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur, agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilist and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. So this gets us up to about 2026 in future history.